Hello everyone and welcome to the first video in our series on solid principles in Python. Today we'll be focusing on the single responsibility principle or SRP. When it comes to designing classes or functions in Python, it is important to ensure that each class has a primary responsibility and does not take on additional responsibilities. This is where the concept of separation comes into play. I hope all of you who are watching this video are familiar in Python programming. So let's start. So you can see what is solid. Solid is an abbreviation that stands for 5 software design principles compiled by Uncle Bob. So Uncle Bob, you can search for him in the Google and you will get the software design principles or design patterns in any languages. For the videos, blogs and articles, you can read them and learn from them. Let's say what does solid stands for. So solid stands for single responsibility principle, open class principle, list curve substitution principle, and so on. So in this video we will focus on the single responsibility principle, which states that your class or method should have only one reason to change and it should have only one responsibility to take care of. Here you can see I have made a class student. So let's take a scenario that we need a student class where we want to store and fetch patient's data and do some operations. I have initialized a init method which takes the parameters as name, roll number, physics mark, maths mark. So now what we'll do, we'll write a store details function. It will store the data to the DB. So here, as you don't have any database, we'll just print it stored to DB. Similarly, write a get details function. So what it should ideally do, it should fetch the data of the student from DB. But here we will directly return an object, that is a dict, which is a key value pair of the data of the students, that is roll number. Similarly, the physics and the maths mark. Let's use this student class to fetch the data of the student. So create a student instance with name John, his roll number is 16, he scored 88 in physics and 89 in maths. So let's first call the store it to database. So store details. Here it will not actually store into the database, it will just print. Then we can print the details. So we'll call the get details function using the student instance. So it should print the details of the students. It's stored to the DB and then it printed the details of the John, that is the name John. So spelling is wrong, it's okay. Roll number is 16, physics is 88 and maths is 89. Let's now do the other two functions, that is the total and percentage. So what does the get total do? It will calculate the total marks of the students. So initialize a variable total and store the marks of the student physics and maths mark in the total variable and return the total. Similarly, you can go write the percentage function. So percentage function will be like this, percent, use the total function to get the total, divided by, it will be the number of subjects into 100, overall multiplied by 100. Pass the n, that is the number of subjects, to the function so that we can calculate the percentage and return the percent. Now print the total mark of the student. and the percentage of the student. Let's see. Looks fine. Okay, stored to DB. I got some error. So what is the error? We're missing one positional argument n. Okay, it is n is required in this function, but we have not passed. So n equals to 2 here because there are two subjects, physics and maths. The program. Okay, now you can see it is stored to DB, and then it fetched the details and printed it. Now the total is 177 and percentage is 88.5. Let's say we have a file mark.txt and we want to write the marks. So we want to write the marks to the sheet. Let's say write mark sheet. Let's name the marks function as write mark sheet. Self, and what we'll do, we'll open the file mark.txt in the write mode, and we'll write inside it. So how to write all the details? Let's define a string function, that is str. Here we'll return a string, we'll format it self.roll number, then we'll space separate, like separate it with a line. First is roll number, name, similarly total marks, get total, percentage, get percentage, n equals to 2, and just put the percentage signal. Now we will write all the data in the functions. You can just call cell.string and write it inside the data, and we will close the file. Right. Now don't call all these things. Print marksheet and then call student instance dot write marksheet. Now you can see the file is empty, and if we will run the code marksheet, okay, then we will see the marksheet. Okay, we have written all the data of the students into the marksheet. You can see roll number 16, name John, total marks 177, percentage 88.5. You can do more is like you can read the file also. Let's just remove the data and we'll call it again. After that marksheet, we'll read it with open read. So with this we can read the file data. So now we'll run the program. You can see I have printed all the data from the marksheet to the console. So now let's see the class student. So the store details, get details are the property of the students. The total marks is also a student property. What the student, the total mark of the student, percentage of the student. What the marksheet is writing to marksheet is not a property of the student, which breaks the single responsibility principle rule. So what should I do here? We should break this class into two classes. Let's say we have another class, result manager, and we will write the write marksheet function inside it, and we will make it a static method because it does not have any init and all those things. We will just pass student object into the function, and we will write the student data inside the file. So which divides the class into two functionalities. So result manager will do what it will do. It will write the mark sheet or all other calculation in real life. We can say in school and colleges they have the result have many functionalities. so the result manager can do it. For the student class is responsible for all the operations and data of the students. So now let's go, then this will not work. Run the program, it should give error. Our student object has no attribute marks it. What we'll do, we'll create a result instance which is a result manager, and then we'll call the result instance dot write marks it, and we'll pass the student instance to it so that it will write the marks of the students into the marks it. So let's remove the first entries which I have done earlier, and we can see again it wrote the marks into the mark sheet. You can see the text file, again it is written. So we divided the class into two types. One is a student class and another is the result manager. So result manager is responsible for the mark sheet and all those operations regarding the marks and the examinations, and the student class is responsible for the student data, student details, storing it to the database, fetching it, and all those things. So here is a class example. Here you learned how to break classes into subclasses according to its responsibilities. Let's see another example of the function based principle. Let's see another function where we can implement the single responsibility principle. Here you can see I have written a simple random function which processes raw data, which takes the data and it creates token to hit the API, and it creates payload which we need to send the post request, and it is hitting the API, and if exception retrying here, and else it is fetching the response, and it is creating map and Vulkan setting and all those things. So we should not do all those things in a single function, which also breaks the principle of the single responsibility principle. So how we can break it? So we can create a function that is def get auth token. We'll return here, let's say it hits some services or hits some services to fetch the token, and it will return it. Will make the headers equals to get auth token, so it simplifies the logic of the process raw data, so that the auth getting the auth token responsibilities of the is the responsibility of this function get auth token. So you can test it easily. You can write unit test for this function easily and this function in easy manner. We can also now break down other things into small functions. Similarly, here it is a payload, so we can write another function create payload, and it will take data and it will return. It will do operations. I am not doing any operations here. It may do many operations. We'll do some operations on the data and return it. So we'll write payload equals to create payload, and we got the payload, we got the headers, and we have to hit the API. So we can also hit it here, or we can also break it down to hit random API, and we'll take the headers and the payload, so that it will be easy to write the retry logic, because we are not writing the retry logic and exception handling and what we have to do for the pagination and all those things. We can directly write it here as it is small, but if it will be a big level project and all those things like pagination, then retry logic and blah blah, we need to do it there. So it will return the response. As you can see, we have divided the functions into many parts. So response will be hit random API will pass the headers and payload, and now we got the response from the API. So now we can do operation here, or we can do bulk insert, def bulk insert to DB, and we'll pass the response, do bulk insert, pass. We can call directly the bulk insert to DB, and we can pass the response. You can see here it has becomes very simple when we divided the function into small functions. So here in a real world problem or real world project, if you had a function like this, you may have many things to do inside this function. So don't do directly inside one function and make it very big that when writing test cases it will be so much difficult. You have to mock so many things, and all those things you may miss edge cases and all. So better divide it into small functions like get auth headers. You can write unit test case for this one simply, and you can write unit test case for this one. Get payload. So your part you can test your code in a small parts, and it will increase the code readability, and refactoring the code will be easier in future and all those things. So that's why we should follow some software design principles and design patterns to make our code better. So thank you. In the next video we'll learn about open close principle.